Archangel Michael has been ordered to deliver what was stolen from you. Watch what happens next. The heavenly order. God says, everything they took from you, every piece, every opportunity, every ounce of confidence, has been recorded in heaven's archive. And tonight, I have commanded my warrior to return it to you in full. The night feels different, heavier, brighter, like the air itself is aware of something sacred. Somewhere beyond sight, Archangel Michael kneels before the throne, receiving an order sealed in light. It isn't revenge he carries, it's restoration. What was stolen was never forgotten, only timed. And heaven has decided the time is now. You have felt the tug of this shift all day, that restless stirring that feels like both warning and promise. That's because your spirit senses the dispatch. Michael is moving. In his hands are scrolls bearing your name, inscribed with things that were taken in silence, peace replaced by confusion, joy traded for fear, trust buried under betrayal. He reads each one aloud, and with every word, heaven releases authority. Thunder rolls softly across dimensions, not chaos, but confirmation. The angel turns, armor catching firelight, wings spreading wider than the horizon. He whispers the command, restore what was lost. And the order echoes through every layer of reality, into memories, into systems, into circumstances that thought they had the final word. You feel it as pressure shifting, as fatigue loosening its grip. People who overlooked you begin to remember your name. Doors that stayed shut without reason begin to open without effort. What you thought you'd lost to time was never gone, it was being recalibrated. Heaven does not misplace, it preserves. Michael descends where your story was interrupted. His presence burns through invisible chains, old guilt, undeserved shame, silent disappointments that anchored you in yesterday. Every broken promise that once echoed like accusation now dissolves under his feet. What was taken by deception will return by direction. God says, they thought they buried you, but I buried the seed. And now the season has turned. Somewhere in your past, a moment begins to glow, an opportunity that slipped away, a friendship that ended unfairly, a door that slammed when you were ready to walk through. Watch it carefully in your memory. It's reopening. Not as it was, but as it should have been. Michael speaks once more, his voice calm and final. Every record has been reviewed. Every loss accounted for. The delivery begins tonight. Wind rushes through your room, subtle yet certain, as if creation itself has exhaled. You are not imagining it, heaven's order is in transit. What was stolen is finding its way home. God says, stand still, beloved. Restoration is movement you do not have to chase. The return begins. God says, when I send what was taken, it never comes back the way it left, it returns multiplied and refined. The night turns quieter than silence itself. The same wind that carried Michael's order now circles the earth, stirring memories, people, and possibilities that were frozen in time. Somewhere between yesterday's pain and tomorrow's promise, restitution begins. You feel the change first in small ways. A thought you had abandoned suddenly feels possible again. An unopened letter from months ago calls your attention. Inside is an opportunity you once missed, now renewed with better timing. Heaven works like that, returning gifts through ordinary envelopes. In another part of the city, someone who once dismissed you can't sleep. They replay conversations, realize the weight of their choices, and whisper an apology you have not yet heard. Their awakening is part of the same command that set Michael in motion. Divine justice does not humiliate, it educates. Michael moves through unseen corridors of time. He finds what was withheld by envy, what was delayed by fear, what was twisted by misunderstanding. Each piece of your story glows as he touches it, untangling knots without anger. The sound of it is soft, like fabric being smoothed. Restoration is rarely loud, it's precise. You wake before dawn and feel peace where heaviness used to live. It isn't relief, it's recognition. The burden you carried so long has been reassigned. Heaven doesn't ask you to lift what angels are already transporting. By midday, proof begins to appear. A project long forgotten gains sudden attention. Money owed finds its way back through an unexpected channel. A lost heirloom surfaces in a drawer you swore you'd checked a dozen times. None of it feels random, each return arrives with the same quiet signature, timing too perfect to be coincidence. God says, I did not forget your labor. I stored it until the ground was fertile enough to yield. You sit by the window as light floods the room. The air itself feels generous, heavy with promise. Gratitude rises unplanned, it spills out of you like breath after running. Michael stands nearby, his sword lowered, eyes steady. Restitution is not revenge, he says. It is balance. Every loss corrected becomes lesson fulfilled. Outside, clouds drift apart revealing a strip of gold along the horizon. Birds trace circles through the air as if sketching new beginnings. You realize this is only the first wave, heaven never restores partially. When it returns, it rebuilds foundations too. God says, the return has begun. What left empty will be filled, what ended wrongly will end rightly. Do not rush to thank me, live thankfully. The light deepens, painting every surface in warmth. The world doesn't look new, it looks true. And that, you understand, is the real miracle of recovery, the familiar becoming sacred again. Michael lifts his gaze toward the horizon and smiles faintly. Delivery confirmed, he murmurs, half to himself, half to heaven. And there is more on the way. The multiplication. God says, what I return, I do not return to the measure of your loss, I return to the measure of my heart. Morning arrives like a promise kept. Light doesn't just enter the room, it takes its place. You wake without the old reflex of scanning your mind for what might go wrong. Peace sits in the chair by the window as if it has always lived there. The returns from yesterday still feel unreal, the message that softened a long-closed door, the payment that found you without chasing, the opportunity revived as if time itself apologized. Yet something deeper moves beneath these restorations, an undertow of increase. You sense it before you see it, heaven is not stopping at back to normal. Heaven is multiplying. Somewhere beyond sight, Archangel Michael stands over a table that is not a table, an altar of light where stories are measured and recompense is designed. On it rests a ledger that cannot be forged, every hour you endured without bitterness, every kindness you gave when you were tired, every yes to goodness when no would have felt like justice. He places the returns you received yesterday upon the altar, then opens his hand. What you thought were single blessings scatter like seeds across a field you did not know was yours. Not one seed falls to waste, the ground itself leans to receive them. You make tea and watch steam write brief psalms against the morning glass. A thought arrives uninvited but welcome: what if nothing is missing anymore? The question dissolves the last film of fear. You smile for no one and everyone. Inside, gratitude begins to hum in a key your body recognizes. The hum becomes momentum. And momentum, heaven knows, attracts instruction. Michael's voice moves through the room like a warm draft. Today, he says, you will witness the second law of restoration. What is returned must be released to its purpose or it shrinks to the size of nostalgia. Blessings are bridges, not trophies. You nod. You know what he means. Yesterday's emails and reconciliations cannot be framed on a wall, they must be walked across. So you begin. You answer the revived opportunity not with caution but with clarity, adding ideas you once hid. The project blooms immediately, contacts reply faster, timelines pull forward, resources that were unavailable become found. You don't push. You simply place what you have in the current that is already moving. Multiplication prefers hands that don't clutch. By late morning, a friend calls to say the apology they never managed to speak yesterday has become action today. They didn't just say they were wrong, they repaired what was broken. You listen, heart steady, and realize how increase works in people: first awareness, then amendment, then alignment. Heaven is scaling hearts as well as outcomes. God says, do you see? I do not multiply numbers alone, I multiply narratives. I do not only return what was taken, I redeem the ones who took. Outside, the city seems brighter on the same streets. The barista is kinder to the rushed man, the rushed man tips the barista without thinking. Two children argue less loudly, interrupted by a shared joke. It looks small, but you can feel the geometry behind it, a widening of grace, each angle smoothing where life once snagged. Multiplication is not chaos, it is a finer order. Michael walks with you unseen through errands that are no longer errands but confirmations. Pay attention to patterns, he murmurs. Multiplication loves pattern, gratitude before grasping, service before spotlight, truth before triumph. As he speaks, a pattern appears: every place you honor becomes a place that honors you back. The clerk offers a discount you didn't ask for. A meeting you dreaded reschedules to a better hour. An old skill you thought irrelevant becomes the key to a new door. Nothing is wasted in the calculus of return, even sidelines become starting lines. Midday leans to afternoon, and the second wave arrives. Not bigger, deeper. A message from someone you once mentored, carrying news that your advice months ago prevented a costly mistake. You had forgotten the conversation, heaven had not. Another note from a distant cousin you barely know: they found a keepsake that belonged to your mother and want to send it because it felt like it was still yours. You sit very still, the type of stillness that prays without words. Multiplication touches memory, healing the past by giving it a future. God says, the thief targeted time, but I am Lord over time. What was too late becomes right now when I breathe. Michael sets a new scroll upon the altar of light. This one glows with a softer radiance, the color of mercy. The third law, he says, is that increase follows integrity. You kept your hands clean when pressure suggested shortcuts. Now the harvest that finds you carries the same purity. It will not demand your soul in exchange for your success. Relief warms you to the bones. You didn't know how tired you were of opportunities that cost your peace to keep. Evening drops its first shadows and brings a holy audacity with it. You begin to plan, not as a way to control, but as a way to cooperate. You list what returned: an open door in work, a mended relationship, unexpected provision, clarity that replaced confusion. Next to each, you write a verb: build, bless, share, steward. Multiplication loves verbs. It struggles in museums and thrives in gardens. You call a friend who once stood with you when standing hurt. I have more than I need, you tell them, and the more is not mine. You pay a bill they didn't mention. You send a gift without a card. You connect someone else to the opportunity that revived for you because the edges don't quite fit your calling. As you give, nothing inside you shrinks. Quite the opposite. The interior rooms expand, making space for the next wave. Heaven will not flood a house with locked doors. God says, I am multiplying you into other people. Their laughter is your interest. Their relief is your return. Night raises her silver lamps. You step outside and the air tastes like rain that hasn't fallen yet, a promise suspended. Michael stands where your street becomes horizon. The sword at his side is quiet, but the scabbard glows as if it remembers fire. Accounting complete, he says, though the energy around him suggests continuation, not closure. Now listen for the hidden multipliers, the choices no one sees. He shows you in a vision, not grand scenes, but small hinges, closing a tab to stay present in a conversation, praying before replying, choosing rest over racing, forgiving before the apology, speaking gratitude to your body for carrying you this far, smiling at tomorrow as if it were shy and needed inviting. These, Michael says, compel the river to run through your life instead of around it. The third wave comes as clarity about calling. Not a spotlight, the opposite. A map of smaller circles where your presence quietly increases other lives. You see it, the neighbor you can visit once a week, the youth you can tutor for an hour, the local shelter that needs your boring, beautiful consistency more than a speech. The world does not require a larger stage from you, it requires a deeper yes. Multiplication is not addition by noise, it is addition by nearness. God says, the harvest will look like people. You laugh, and the night seems to carry it. The laughter calls something home, an inner permission you didn't know you needed to enjoy what is arriving. Joy itself multiplies. It doesn't wait for totals, it tallies as it dances. Before sleep, you walk through your rooms with the lights low. You touch the table where you'll share meals that ease burdens, the desk where ideas will turn into help, the door you'll open more often because you are no longer guarding emptiness. Gratitude is not a feeling tonight, it is a choreography. You move inside it, it moves inside you. Michael's presence gathers at the threshold. Final law for tonight, he says, voice a benediction, what multiplies must be maintained by the same humility that welcomed it. Keep the floors swept of pride, the windows open to correction, the pantry stocked with patience. He smiles, not celestial, but almost brotherly. And keep a chair for the unexpected guest. Increase travels with guests. You nod, understanding more than the words. You leave one chair pulled back from the table. It looks slightly out of place, but perfectly expectant. The room holds its breath the way rooms do when heaven is invited to use them. God says, "Sleep, beloved. You are not behind. What was stolen has been returned, what returned has been seated, what is seated will sing." You lie down. The city hushes to a low heartbeat. Somewhere beyond time, the altar of light closes like a book after the end of a chapter, and yet you hear pages turning still. Multiplication doesn't need your eyes to operate, it needs your trust to continue. You give it freely and fall into rest. In the quiet, Michael speaks one last line that threads the whole day together: what you carried through the hard seasons became currency. Tonight heaven spent it, with interest. And in that assurance, the dark is not dark. It is fertile. The morning waiting on the other side is not empty. It is abundant and already awake. The doors within doors. God says, "I never give only one blessing. Every gift I send carries the seed of another." What you call destination is often only the doorway to greater discovery. The new day glows like a secret kept kindly. You rise early, not because you must, but because the air itself feels expectant. Peace no longer surprises you, it anchors you. Yet beneath that calm hums a sense of movement, like footsteps behind a curtain. Heaven is not finished. Archangel Michael stands at the edge of your perception, wings folded, gaze turned towards something you cannot yet see. You have entered the first gate, he says. But there are doors within doors. Restoration was the threshold, not the end. He gestures, and the scene around you bends as if the air itself were remembering something. The walls of your life, work, family, purpose, begin to shimmer, each revealing faint outlines of smaller doors you had overlooked. Some appear as opportunities that once seemed too small to matter. Others look like old mistakes now glowing with new meaning. Open them, Michael says, but open slowly. Rushing breaks hinges, reverence turns them silently. You begin with the smallest, a half-finished idea from years ago. It returns now not as ambition but as answer. When you share it with a colleague, their eyes light up, they have been seeking that exact solution. One door unlocks another. The connection that follows introduces you to someone whose compassion mirrors your own. The network of restoration becomes visible, like constellations forming between souls who thought they were alone. God says, when you live healed, you become hinge and hallway both. Through you, others pass into peace. At noon, you walk through the marketplace and notice how each interaction seems choreographed. Someone drops a coin, another bends to help, laughter breaks tension. Ordinary kindness becomes architecture. You realize the world itself is full of hidden corridors that open only for gentleness. The more gratitude you carry, the more they appear. That evening, Michael leads you to a memory long sealed by pain. It rises like an old photograph, faded, brittle, but unforgotten. This one, he says, must be reopened too. You hesitate. The memory trembles between fear and release. It won't hurt this time, the angel adds softly. The lesson has already paid the cost. You exhale and step forward. The scene brightens, shifts, and you see truth you couldn't then. What once felt like betrayal was protection disguised. Closure becomes corridor. You wake from the vision lighter. Doors once labeled loss now read lesson. The map of your life begins to make sense not as a straight path but as a cathedral, each chamber different, each one sacred. You understand that blessings are not stairs to climb but rooms to tend. The more faithfully you care for one, the more the next door reveals itself. God says, I hide progress in patience. Every time you honor the present, the future hears permission to unfold. Weeks pass. You find yourself speaking differently, walking slower, listening deeper. People notice but can't name it. What they feel is spaciousness, the echo of the doors you've opened. Even conflict changes shape, what used to spark reaction now invites understanding. You've learned heaven's architecture, revelation layered in relationship, promise nested inside process. Michael appears again, standing in the light of 1,000 unseen torches. Do you see now? He asks. Increase was never meant to pile high, it was meant to spread wide. The more rooms of peace you unlock, the less darkness has space to occupy. He turns, and for a heartbeat you glimpse how far the design reaches, millions of small doorways glowing across the world, each one a person who chose forgiveness, restraint, generosity. The sight humbles you to tears. All of this, Michael says quietly, because one heart refused to stay closed. God says, when I order restoration, I restore in layers, first the hand, then the work, then the world touched by that hand. You nod, whispering a simple prayer, let me keep opening. The air answers with warmth. You understand now that heaven's reward for obedience is not comfort, it's capacity. The more you yield, the more you are trusted with. Night folds over the city. You leave one light burning by the door, a small flame against the dark. It flickers, steady and patient, waiting for the next traveler to notice. Somewhere far beyond, Michael watches the glow and smiles. Another gate, he murmurs. And still more waiting.